Well, hello, everyone. This is Charles Cook. Thank you for joining me on another one of my podcasts. If you're watching me, I asked you to share the video. You can also follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And if you follow me on YouTube or Rumble, click the subscribe button and the bell, and so you'll get notifications when I upload a video. So, what I want to talk to you today about and talk about today is your local swamp. And every city and county uh, has them, as well as the state and Washington, D.C. Everybody wants to talk about the swamp in Washington and how bad it is, but no one really focuses on the local level in your city and county. And it's just as bad there. You just don't see it, and they use the media to achieve what they want to do. And I'm going to show you that today. Um, when I first started seeing some of the articles come out, I wanted to do a video, and I thought, well, I better not. And good thing I didn't, because there was more stuff that came out over time. And if I would have reacted to the first article, in which is more or less what I'm going to talk about today, I would probably sounded more like Alex Jones, and I really don't want to do that. I want to give you good content. So anyway, so there was a Victor Ashe article. He has an opinion column that is get it here. It's written in Knox News. You can see this, and Victor Ashe, a Shopper News columnist. Okay, so this is supposed to be Shopper News. It's not going to say that, but anyway, it talks about the trustee retiring and from his civil service career. But later in the article, and I'll read part of this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing. And then there's an article here. It's in the Knoxville Focus, and it goes and attacks Daniel Herrera and Eric Wider in Knoxville. Daniel Herrera is the GOP party chairman in Knox County, and Eric Wider is a good young political consultant, and they together their work has really helped the grassroots Republicans in Knox County. So anyway, part of this article here, it goes on to say here, in addition to the surprise sharp decline in vote percentage for Knox County Mayor Glenn Jacobs in the August general election, the narrow win for Gina Oster of Knox County Commissioner over Democrat in the, I'm not going to mention the Democrat's name, in the Cedar Bluff area has people talking. This was Oster's third but first successful public office, first successful try for public office, having previously lost to school board and state representative race. Oster's win by fewer than 100 votes, and the Democrats' strong showing, particularly a newcomer, has the spotlight on her. Democrats will seek, well, has the spotlight on her, as Democrats will seek to again to win the seat in 2026. Incumbent Randy Smith, who is retiring, won both his elections by more than 60%. Now, here he goes. Many thoughtful Republicans blame Knox County GOP chair Daniel Herrera for being outclassed and outsmarted by Democrat chair, and I'm not going to mention his name, who left no stone unturned helping his candidates with an aggressive, active ground game. The GOP finally set the Lincoln Day dinner for October the 13th, while the Democrats had a sellout crowd in June for their Truman Day dinner with former Alabama Senator Doug Jones as Speaker. Democrats hope Herrera continues as the local GOP chair for many years in efforts to oust him fails. And then he goes on to talk about GOP state representative nominee Elaine Davis in her race, but we'll talk about that a little bit later too. So I want to first talk about where he talks about Glenn Jacobs. Now, Glenn Jacobs' election results has nothing to do with Daniel Herrera, and it has nothing to do. Gina Oster's has nothing to do with Daniel Herrera, and we'll talk about that. So let's talk about Glenn Jacobs first. Glenn Jacobs is, many people know that he was a wrestler and he was popular, and he barely won the Republican nomination when he first ran. I think he won by like 18 votes, and that's fine. That's a close a local election. But then he went on and had a pretty good win against his Democratic opponent. Well, since he first took office and his reelection, Glenn has done some things that has upset a lot of true conservatives, and that's just the way it is. You do things like that, and it makes them mad. So what are some of those things? So Glenn supported Eddie Manis for state representative in 2020. And we'll go into this a little bit later when I talk about Gina Oster. But Glenn supported this guy, and he went to bat for him. Glenn, along with other Knox County Republicans, went to bat for Eddie Manis, and who was a Democrat donor who voted in the Democratic presidential primary. And just weeks before he voted, went to pick up a petition to run as a Republican for state representative. So there was some issues with that, and with the SEC committee, state executive committee for the Republican Party, and Glenn supported him and wrote a letter of support, signed a letter of support, whichever it was, and it turned a lot of people off. And like I said, there was other people involved in that, but we'll talk about that more later. And then Glenn got involved with the baseball stadium, trying to bring the Tennessee Smokies back to Knoxville to play there. And look, a lot of people may support that. Most true conservatives don't support the government getting involved in stadiums and stuff like that. Most true conservatives believe that that is not the role of government, and you don't have you shouldn't be putting taxpayers potentially to be on the hook for having to pay for a baseball stadium. So that's some of the things he did. And so when you do things that go against the people who voted for you, it's demoralizing to them, and they won't support you no more. So Glenn had his own issues, and it had nothing to do with Daniel Herrera. So, that's on Glenn. If he wants to do that, then that's between him and the voters, and it didn't bode well for him. He won his election, but he lost votes that he had 4 years before that. So, what Glenn did was he done it to himself. All right. So let's talk about Gina Oster. Gina Oster, which he was talking about, apparently she ran for school board. I don't know about that, but she also ran for state representative. Well, she ran against Eddie Manis, and as I told you, Eddie Manis donated money to Democrats, a lot of money to Democrats. He voted for Democrats. He, you know, voted in the presidential primary, which would have been Joe Biden, and voted for one of them, and then a few weeks later turned around and picked up a petition to run as a Republican for state representative in Knox County. So there were some issues with that with the SEC, the state executive committee for the Republican Party, and so they wasn't going to let him on the ballot. And Glenn Jacobs, Tim Burchett, and other Knox County Republicans reportedly, at the request of Victor Ashe, signed a letter to help Eddie Manus get put on the ballot. Victor Ashe's article doesn't mention that. Okay, so reportedly at the request of Victor Ashe, they did that. Well, the SEC committee itself voted not to let him on the ballot. Well, Scott Golden, the state executive committee chairman, overruled them and basically put Manus on the ballot himself. Okay. Wonder who he did that for. Could it have been some well-known establishment Republicans, that former Knox County Mayor Victor Ashe, who worked as an ambassador to Poland and had all this pull with, well-known Republican Party, kind of picking it up now. You seeing the swamp creatures starting to swim around. Okay, so that's how Eddie Manus got on the ballot. All right. So then it talks about Gina and her previous runs. It was her third try, first successful try, but her third attempt. What it doesn't tell you in the article was Eddie Manus had run for Knoxville City Mayor and finished second to India Kincannon for the Knoxville City Mayor's race. So it was at least Manus's second run for state, for public office, if not his third. So, the establishment's article and using their media did not tell you that. What he doesn't also tell you, he tells you that Gina won her county commission race by less than 100 votes in a general election. What they don't tell you is Eddie Manus won his primary election against Gina by less than 100 votes. And that was only because the Democrats crossed over into the Republican primary to vote for Eddie. Victor Ashe's article don't tell you that. You see how they use the media to distort the truth? And that's why I'm doing this video today, to set the record straight. So Manus goes on, wins the general election, and he goes to Nashville and serves 2 years as state representative for that district in Knox County. And he makes a lot of votes that embarrasses true conservatives. And those people who supported him and went to bat for him and talked about, oh, he's a good guy. He's really a good conservative. He just helps some Democrats a little bit here and there. Well, when they seen the votes that he made for letting boys compete on girls' teams and stuff like that, all that support fell away from him. And then now he's decided not to run for re-election. So he's not running for re-election, and that seat is going to be open. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes, of the people who's going to run against him. So let's go ahead and switch to where he went after GOP chairman Daniel Herrera. All right. He said Daniel Herrera was outclassed and outsmarted. Well, were they really? Because he don't give you no numbers. I've got the numbers. Knox County Democrat Party, not the candidates, the party itself, spent $125,000 in 6 months and failed to win a county commission seat. They lost the mayor's race, or they failed to flip the school board. Okay. So the Knox County Republicans, out of 34 races, won 32. The Democrats won two races. So if you're going to talk about and put in your article that the GOP chairman was outsmarted and outclassed, you're a fraud. Look at the numbers. You're lying. And that's what you're using your media to do. To just go after a good young man and say stuff like that about him. It's a lie. But that's what they did. And if I was Daniel, I'd put those numbers out and give it a mic drop and walk away. But that's what, these people do who are feeling this GOP, their power in the Republican Party, slip right out of their hands, and they can't, the grassroots, the young people that are getting involved in the grassroots conservative movement are winning, and this is the results of it. Stuff like this. And like I said, this is just Knox County. This is not my county or your county or the state level. As I said at the beginning, we all look at DC and think, oh, wow, those guys are dirty, and you don't really see what's going on in your local government, your local level. So then there's the article by Steve Hunley in the Knoxville Focus. The article is nothing more than trying to trash two good young men, Eric Wider and Daniel Herrera. It's nothing but a hit piece. And, these people are losing their grips on the Knox County Republican Party. They're growing. The grassroots conservatives are making gains. And this is nothing more than to go after these two young men and trash them. Eric has done a good job in Knoxville helping grassroots conservatives win seats. And he's done a good job with that. And that's why they're trashing him, because they fear him. Bottom line, they fear him. They fear the man. And so they're going to go after him. And as I said, the establishment is losing control, and they'd rather see it sink than lose control of it. They don't care. They've got theirs. They're a bunch of old men who's got what they want, and these other people are out here working their tails off to try to make improvements, and this is what they're doing to them. So now they turn their focus to Elaine Davis and the SEC race in November. The state representative race in November. Mr. GOP Eddie Maness has reportedly endorsed Elaine Davis's Democrat opponent. Mr. GOP, oh, he's a good guy. He's a good Republican. That's why people like Jeremy Faison, Mr. True Republican from Cobb County and portions of Hamlin County, went out and knocked on doors for this man over a true conservative. As you can see, my blood pressure gets up when I talk about this. This is why I said I needed to wait a while, because I would have probably been like Alex Jones. But this is what they're doing. They'd rather support a Democrat than see a grassroots conservative win a seat in Knox County. Reports also say that Victor Ashe and few of the other Knox County Republican establishment is supporting the Democrat. So when these people tell you, oh, it don't matter, you got to vote Republican, you got to vote Republican. Many of them, when they get behind the scenes, are voting Democrat. Many of them are using their power to get Democrats on the ballot as Republicans. It's not about freedom and liberty, good versus bad. It's all about power and control to these people. And you need to understand it. It's not just in Knox County. It's in your county. It's in your city. You need to start paying attention and watching and seeing what's going on. And when you see this stuff, you need to throw up a red flag and make it known to the other people around you of what's going on, because the swamp is alive and well in Tennessee, and they're using local media to achieve what they want to do. If they can't get it on the TV stations, they're doing it in print. Now, the good thing is, a lot of people don't read this trash anymore. I just happened up on one of them, and another good conservative gentleman sent me the other one, and it's not good. And then we see the stuff at where I did my interview with Mark Pulliam Thursday evening about what the SEC State Executive Republican Committee done to him as a grassroots conservative, winning his seat as a write-in. No challengers. He got the votes. No one else running, and they stole his election from him. So wake up, because we hear red to the roots in Tennessee. Tennessee's red to the roots. No, we're not. We have an establishment hungry for power and control, and that's what they're after. Just wake up and keep an eye out. And with that, I thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. As I said, follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and share these videos. It's good information that you're not going to get anywhere else. And my focus is on making our local and our city and county and state governments here in Tennessee. My focus is on Tennessee, making it better, getting the truth out. You can turn on the local media, you can turn on TV, Fox News, get all that other garbage all the time. You got an opportunity to do something here in your local area that affects you more than anything, but you need to get involved. With that, have a good day. Thank you. God bless you, and stay safe.